or a thumbs up if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Yep.
We'll give it a couple more minutes as people start to trickle in. A few turned out so far. So if you are in the right meeting, you're in the Rigert Road community meeting for the Neighborhood Streets program. If you're here and that wasn't where you thought you were going to be, feel free to stick around or hop off.
Yeah. I love you too.
And I'm going to go ahead and start pulling up the presentation. Okay. Well, at this point, I think we're ready to go. So welcome, everyone. Like I said, this is the Rigert Road community meeting for the Neighborhood Streets program. And my name is Melissa Norman. I am with Washington County, the Neighborhood Streets program coordinator. Also with us tonight is Sherry McFall. Sherry is in charge of the Urban Road Maintenance District program, which is where the Neighborhood Streets program lays and where its funding is from.
Thank you, Melissa.
So just a couple things for tonight. Some rules and etiquette. I know it's a little bit hard with all of the Zoom meetings and online stuff. So if you haven't noticed, everybody is muted right now. I've got a presentation I'm going to go through, and then afterwards we'll kind of open it up for discussion. I got a couple emails from some of you guys, some asked to speak, so we'll go through that. If it becomes a little bit where we've got more speakers than we've got time, we'll start setting time limits on that. But from the ones I've done before, that really hasn't been too bad. The other thing I ask is just to be courteous on this. Try not to speak over people. Try to keep it, fairly decent. So some of the things we're going to do: an overview of the Neighborhood Streets program, what the goals of it are, the process. It's a two-phase thing, so we'll go over what each of those are, and then the next steps. So after we've covered all that in the presentation, we'll go over the questions and discussion. So Neighborhood Streets program is all about maintaining the livability of the neighborhood. It's a community process that addresses speeding, cut-through traffic, and parking from outside the neighborhood. So the requirements are, we need a commitment from the community. This is not something that Washington County comes in and just does for you. It's really community-driven. So that's where you guys kind of already started that. You've made the request. And then we've had a lot of communication back and forth. I've talked to a number of you about that. And so that community involvement is really what makes this process so successful. It is an investment of time and energy. It's going to take some work on your part. It's going to take some work on our part. But if we all work together, it's not too bad for any one person, and we get a pretty good product afterwards. And the last thing is the respect for differing points of view. So everybody has different opinions based on where they live and what they see, their ages, how comfortable they are around traffic, about what particular improvement they would like to see happen out there. We're limited by the rules of the program. We're limited by traffic rules in general on what we can do. And we're limited to, we can only do so much. So we're not, potentially we wouldn't be able to address everybody's concerns and make everyone happy, but just recognizing that, you may not have the same desire for a certain traffic calming thing as your neighbor would. So the goals of the NSD is to preserve and improve neighborhood livability by discouraging speeding and unsafe driving behavior, encouraging walking, biking, and rolling, improving safety for all road users, problem solving as a community, and using tax dollars efficiently by prioritizing requests for improvement. So these are all things that are really spelled out in our program. You can find them on our website if you want to read through them at a later date. The process. So it's a two-phase process. The first phase is, we put first year because sometimes it does take a whole year to get through that. And we're looking for solutions to change driver behavior. If you'll have noticed in the last year, you've had the radar trailer out on Rigert at least once. You may have seen enhanced patrols by the sheriff's office if we've done some of those requests. So what we're really looking for is to see if we can just make drivers aware of their behavior, and that fixes the problem without having to go out and construct anything. Once we've been through that process and we've seen how successful that is, if it doesn't have the desired results and you still qualify, we're looking at phase 2. So that's usually when we're moving into the second year, and we're looking at solutions to change the environment. So instead of changing driver behavior, we're looking at changing the road. So phase 1 stuff: brush or vegetation trimming, yard signs, traffic signs and markings, neighborhood speed watch, the radar trailer, a community newsletter, and targeted traffic enforcement. We've already done a number of these on Rigert. There are some more that we can obviously try if that's the direction you guys would like to go. But these are the things that we want to try first before we go to something that's more labor intensive and invasive and higher cost. So the phase 2 stuff. This is when we've exhausted phase 1 and we've looked at now we're looking at the eligibility to make sure that we can still continue with the program to phase 2. So for the roads, we're looking at a posted speed of 35 miles an hour or less, and then that 85th percentile. So that 85% of the traffic is driving at or below 5 miles an hour or higher over the speed limit. So on Rigert, we found the 85th percentile speed to be 31 miles an hour. It's posted at 25. So to qualify, you would need at least 30 miles an hour. So 31 miles an hour works. So local streets and neighborhood routes, you're looking for no more than 2 lanes and more than 1,000 vehicles per day. If you're a residential collector, so this has to do with the way that Washington County classifies the roads, it needs to be at least 500 feet in length. It has to have residential property frontage. So this one's a little bit tricky. We're not looking for backyards or side yards or fences. We're looking for driveways, front doors, sidewalks that access the house or the building. So that residential property frontage, and at least 3 of these last 4 options. So more than 50 fronting properties per mile. So fronting properties is that front door, sidewalk access, driveway. That's what we're looking for, is that your front door is on the street. On-street parking, no bike lanes, and no center 2-way left turn lanes. So the point of this is, this program didn't used to be for collectors, but there's a number of collectors that are very residential. They seem like local streets. And so the program was updated to incorporate some of these. And this list is what was approved as ways to kind of determine what a residential collector is. So these things on the list here help us determine that it looks and feels, it acts like a local street. So the next steps: projects are ranked for funding according to their eligibility. So if we have a whole flood of projects coming in, which now that we can have some collectors on it, we're seeing more projects come in. They are ranked according to that eligibility that was on the previous slide. And then what we need to do is we have a petition go through the neighborhood, and we can get 1 signature per property. And what we're looking for is that community involvement, that interest. So trying to make sure that This is something that everybody in the community, or at least the majority of the community, is interested in. And it's not just one or two people, because while we'd love to address the concerns of every resident, it's just not economical for us to do a large scale project for one or two people. And so 51% of the property owners must sign the petition to move forward. And a traffic calming plan is then drafted in collaboration with the community. So that's all of us working together to come up with what we think the appropriate solution should be for the problems you've identified on Rigert. And then the community votes on this plan. So I haven't figured out a really great way to do online ballots. So what you would get is a postcard in the mail that you would check yes or no and send back. We get one vote per property, and these go to the homeowners. So the petition can actually be signed by renters or just somebody in the house. The ballots have to go to the homeowners, and we get one ballot per property. And then a non-returned ballot counts as a no. So that's where they have to come back in order to count. If they don't come back, it counts as a no. And what you're looking for is 67% approval required to move forward. So that's 67% of the people in the area that we determine needs to vote on the ballot that need to return one that says yes. So the petition area is usually broader or the same as the balloting area. What we're looking for in the petition is to gauge level of interest. So when I sent out the meeting notices for this meeting, it went pretty broad. It went to everybody because there's nothing wrong with wanting to come see what's happening with the meeting. The ballot or the petition could go out to that same area. You could be looking for signatures in that same broad area, or you can narrow it down a little bit. And then based on what we determine the traffic calming is going to be, would really determine where that balloting area is. So the ballots we're targeting to the people who are directly affected by the traffic calming. So if we're looking at putting in something that's going to restrict access, make driving more difficult, make it impact the daily driving of certain houses, all those affected houses would get a ballot. So that's where I can't tell you exactly at this point how many people would need to sign a petition, how many people would need to sign a ballot, because we haven't kind of determined our area of influence for all of this stuff. So traffic calming options, we could do nothing. If it's just, you know what, it's not worth whatever we've looked at, nobody can agree on anything. We can continue with the education. We can look at doing radar trailer. We can look at doing targeted enforcement, some of those other options with newsletters. You guys have a couple of HOAs out there that we could use for some outreach. There's median islands, speed cushions, curb extensions, and pavement texturing. These are all things that we can consider. This is the generic presentation that I use a lot of times. So none of these are specifically targeted for your road or your situation. So once the traffic calming plan is shared with the community, then if you make it all the way through the process, you would then implement it, and we'd review the project results afterwards to see if we did indeed get that traffic calming that we were going for. So then I just have a couple of slides here at the end that kind of shows the area for anybody who's less familiar or who just wanted to kind of know who's invited to this meeting. What you'll see here is Rigert, and then the meeting notice was sent to the HOAs on the north and the south. It encompassed a large number of areas. We sent out a couple hundred mailers. This was a very large group that was sent to just to see what kind of interest we had for anything in the area, and to get some opinions, give people a chance to voice their concerns. So, and then this is just a little bit of a zoomed out Google map so that we can kind of look at, I turned on the aerial here so we can look at where the houses are and kind of the roads. So I don't know how well it's easy to see for any of you on small screens, especially if you're on a phone. but if you're familiar with the area, then hopefully this isn't as big of a requirement for you. So at this time, we can go ahead and open it up to questions, comments, speakers. The one person I did have on my list that asked to speak tonight was Sam Kim. So trying to look. I don't see Sam in the meeting yet. If there is anybody else who would like to speak, make a comment, ask a question, go ahead and let us know. And so Tressa, if you want to go ahead, I know you've kind of been spearheading this. I'll let you go ahead and have a chance to talk.
Can you hear me? Okay. I just wanted to know, I understood about the 50% in the petition. And I was wondering, because we went, we had exchanged emails about whether it's a connector street or not. And then, I was talking about obviously west of 175th to 185th on Rigert. And so I counted, I can't remember exactly, maybe 15 houses, 20. Do you guys have the number of how many houses directly face the street?
Sorry, I missed
That
the
would
first
count.
part of that. You were looking for how many houses faced the street?
Yeah, because that was part of your criteria for phase 2, right? Yeah. On-street parking, no bike lane, no center left lane, 50 fronting properties. There wasn't 50, I don't think.
There was not. So you needed to meet at least 3 of the additional criteria.
Okay.
The ones I got you meeting was the on-street parking, because parts of it do have on-street parking.
Yep.
No bike lane and no center left turn lane. So that was your 3.
Does having a bus stop there, right on 184th and Rigert, that's been there. There's a sign that says, bus stop ahead and stuff. That's been there for years. Does that count? Does that help?
It doesn't change anything, unfortunately.
Okay.
So you do qualify for that.
How many? Yeah. How many fronting properties were there? Do you have a count?
I don't have that in my notes.
Okay.
I just have that we did not have
50. Okay. And then, I'm sorry, I have one more question. On the petition, does that require then someone to go around specifically door to door to get that signed, or is there a way we can do it online, or, I guess, I don't know. I'm not clear on how to do that.
So we've kind of left that one open because right now I'm not sure of everybody's comfortableness with going around door to door.
Right.
So we've done some research. There are some online petitions that can be used.
Oh.
I don't have the names with me right now of the ones we looked at. We were just Googling petitions to see what was out there. I have a form that we have used for the door-to-door ones in the past that for like name, address, and whether they rent or own. And
right.
If I sent that one to you, you're welcome to use it. If I didn't, I can.
Yeah.
And the other thing is you can just find an online form. The main thing that I'm really looking for is kind of the person's name and address. So I have an idea of where they are, what area we're looking at, making sure that we're getting real people.
Well, I do know that there's some interest, at least because there's been a speed trailer 3 times, and I requested it once. And I've also seen people on the Valley View side, which is the south side, post those, those sort of foam children, outlines that say slow down. So anyway, I mean, I don't know if we can do more stuff like that. You said there was like foliage, cutting back foliage and stuff. Like, does the county do that, or who does that?
If it's in the county right away, I can put a request in to get some vegetation trimmed. If you're looking for more of those slow down signs, we've got those as part of the Neighborhood Streets program. If I have specific addresses who would like to put them up, I can deliver them.
Okay. I mean, when you say 85%, 85, does that mean it's an average of 31 miles per hour? Can you explain that math to me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yeah. If 100 cars went down the road, 85 of them are driving at or below, in your case, 31 miles an hour. So 15 of those 100 cars are driving faster than that.
Okay.
And the 85th percentile speed sounds very arbitrary, I know, when I mention it to you guys, but for people in traffic engineering, it's kind of the accepted standard for how to determine the appropriate speed.
Okay. Okay. That kind of seems right, just from anecdotally walking, regularly on Rigert. So I guess I'm glad it counts. Okay. I think that's all my questions for now.
Okay, so are people able to unmute themselves right now?
I just got a notification I could unmute.
There you go, Jennifer, you're up.
Great. So just to let you know, we live on Rigert Road. However, our house faces sideway. We are highly affected by it. We have sent in complaints to the sheriff since 2007. I've collected data on the speed on it, and speed has been up to 60 something miles an hour from the data I collected. And so I know you have the data that said 85% is going under 31 miles an hour. That was when the radar truck was documenting it. That's just the one time, right, under the radar truck, or when the sheriff was there, during those times. There are lots of times, 24 hours a day, that the traffic speed is beyond that. So I just wanted to point that out, first of all, because we live literally, our home is badly affected by it. Secondly, as far as the petition, I do know change.com, if that's something we can do, so we could get a broader range of people to be on that. We did that on Bainey Road. So is that a petition, a platform we could use to start a petition like this? Because this really needs to happen. This is affecting the community, and I'm speaking for a large group of people. I spoke to it. I know there's a lot of people out there that are feeling the same way we feel about Rigert Road.
So if change.com allows you to just have names and addresses of people, and they're signing and acknowledging that they are interested in traffic calming on Rigert, then that is absolutely one you can use.
Okay.
I'm not super familiar with it, so I apologize. But if that satisfies the requirements of name and address, and they can acknowledge that they are interested in traffic calming, then that is acceptable to me. So that would be one that you could get. And then if it's all electronic, just make sure that all that comes into the NSP email, and we can move forward in the process once that we've gotten 51% on the petition.
Okay, and then could you clarify, because our house does not face frontal on Rigert. So could you clarify that information that you went over earlier, as far as giving me a better understanding regarding the house facing front for that information?
So when we're so this program was originally designed for locals and neighborhood routes, which are streets that are in neighborhoods. There's a number that are classified as collectors that are streets in neighborhoods, like yours was originally. And so the program was rewritten to try to figure out a way to make those collectors. How do we determine which ones of those are like neighborhood streets? So one of the things that they did, and they said it has to be in a residential area. So for that, your house counts because you are a residentialist, you're zoned residential, and you're right on Rigert, which is a collector. So that's how that works, where your house counts for that residential zoning. The other part of it, so when we get down into that selection of 4, and we were talking about must meet 3 of the 4, and it says fronting properties, if you don't have a front door or like a sidewalk connection, your driveway on Rigert, you're not a fronting property because your access is a fence. So nobody's going through the fence to get to the road. You might access Rigert from an intersection, but you're not doing it directly from like your front door. You don't, in a neighborhood, you often walk out your front door onto the street. So that's what they were trying to figure out, how to put that into a checklist to figure out if these collectors are residential. And one of the things that they're trying to capture was, if you walk out your front door, would you end up on the street? So that's where the fronting properties came in, is we're trying to get, 50 fronting properties per mile. So 50 people who walk out their front door or back out of their driveway directly onto the collector. And that was the part where Rigert didn't meet. Now, that doesn't mean that you wouldn't qualify for any of the balloting and the petition, because obviously a lot of the stuff we do on Rigert, it's going to affect anybody on those side streets that uses Rigert in their daily commute, or to get to school, or to run to the grocery store. So you're still signing a petition and potentially voting in a ballot, but you counted for getting Rigert classified as a residential area. You just didn't count as a fronting property because you don't have a front door on it. Did that help?
It does. It doesn't make it better. We do have a back driveway to our backyard that is right on to Rigert.
Is it used on a daily basis, and is it permitted?
It is used. I wouldn't say it's used daily, but it is used often.
It's actually used by
it's used by the water company.
Okay.
As well.
Interesting. So that is not something I probably took into account when I was counting fronting properties, because that might not have been apparent to me. So I think we'll move on to the next person. Hopefully somebody else got permission to unmute. There we go, Julie.
Hi, thank you. Jennifer's questions were most of my questions, so thank you, Jennifer. But our house, like Jennifer's, backs up to Rigert. Rigert is actually closer to my house than the street is at the front of my house. So I can attest to Jennifer's point that it is a real problem, the noise and the speed. We are right near the hills between 184th and 181st. So people just come turning off of 185th. They accelerate down that hill and they are just flying, where my kids that can access Rigert from our backyard, I'm not even comfortable with them crossing the street because the traffic is just so quick through there that it is an absolute accident waiting to happen. So I understand with like the front-facing neighborhood, but what households could be put on the petition to qualify? Like, how far into the neighborhood do we have to get our education? And even if we do have to go door to door to remind them to look at their mail and, you know, sign the petition, what kind of geographic area are we looking at?
So I start with everybody who is on Rigert or on a dead end or cul-de-sac who that's their only way to drive. Those are the ones that we know that anything we do is going to affect them because they don't have another back way out of the neighborhood. For the meeting tonight, I went pretty far up as far as, you know, towards Baney and south towards, you know, Gassner and Kemmer, just trying to make sure that anybody who wanted to was welcome to come to the meeting. I know it was sent to the HOAs. I don't expect to have to go that far to sign a petition, because if we start getting off of those streets and we run out of people who are interested in traffic calming, then this isn't anything we, you know, if what we decide to do doesn't affect them. For example, speed feedback sign. There's a good chance that unless that sign is adjacent to your property or in your front yard or on your property line, it doesn't really affect you, and you probably don't care as much that it goes in. So in that case, we're looking at a smaller area for a petition and a much smaller area for a ballot. Whereas if we're looking at doing, like, if you guys wanted to restrict access somewhere, that's huge. I mean, not even taking into account the county requirements for what we would have to go to do that, because it would affect anybody that drives on Rigert, we'd be looking at a much broader area of people who would want to have input on that. You know, maybe their way out in the neighborhood in the morning is to go south, but when they come home in the evenings, they always come on Rigert. If that was the case, then they would be interested in the petition, they would be interested in the ballot. That becomes a much bigger issue. So depending, I mean, if you guys have a thought of where you're looking to go with this, I would say that, you know, that petition is starting with everybody on Rigert and on the few dead end streets that come directly off of it, and then go up to the first, you know, intersection or just a little bit off the road. And that petition, it's gauging your level of interest. So when you start running out of the people, as you go farther away from Rigert and you run out of people who are interested in traffic calming, stop your area there. And so if you go up and you get a bunch of interest and then you run out of interest, we'll call the end there. I'll count all the houses within there. And if I've got 51% of the people, you know, in the area that we had interest, we're good to go. So I know it's a little ambiguous at this point. I've never done one that's had this many offshoots. So setting the petition boundary here is a little bit new for me as well. But I'm looking at, you know, a block or so, a couple blocks off of Rigert, I think, before we start to lose a little bit of interest there. If that helps you determine how far you have to go.
Yeah, no, definitely. I appreciate that. And I'm also kind of late to this process. Our family moved into this house a little over a year ago, and we didn't realize what a problem it was until we got moved in and after the pandemic traffic started to come back. What are we petitioning here? Is this to start phase 1 or is this to start phase 2?
This would be to start phase 2. So we've had a number of times that residents in the area have been interested in phase 1, and it's been within the last year that we've expanded to include collectors. So until we did that, Rigert wasn't even eligible for the program. Once we got it expanded, Tressa and a couple others contacted us and said, hey, we're super interested in this, let's get going. We put the trailer out there. So we've met the requirements of phase 1, barring the you know, more community involvement, which would be like you guys standing out there with radar, reader boards yourself, which I'm not always a big fan of. We've had the radar trailer out there a number of times. I do know that with the radar trailer out there, it does drop the speed 2 to 3 miles an hour. So we do know that without the radar trailer, speeds are often 2 to 3 miles an hour faster for that 85th that we were talking about. The whole point of the trailer is to make people aware of how they're driving. So it's not always going to, it's not going to show the true speeds of the traffic because they're slowing down, but we want them to slow down. We want them to look at that trailer and it to flash them and to go, oh shoot, I didn't realize I was going so fast. So
Definitely. And that's kind of one comment that I have, now being in the neighborhood and being aware of how traveling over 25 miles an hour impacts the community. The way the street is designed, and I'm no expert at this by any means, but without any markings on the road, any double yellow line or even white lines on the edges, it's very easy for a driver to easily go over that 25. I will fully admit that I routinely find myself in the 35 mile an hour range just driving my kids to school, which shocks me because I'm aware of the impacts. So, is there anything that can be done now to request any markings to be laid down on the road to deter speeders?
So if we start marking the road, then we start disqualifying ourselves as a residential collector because those local neighborhood streets that we're talking about, they don't generally have striping, they have on-street parking. Rigert's a little weird because you've got some improved areas and some unimproved areas. So you've got sidewalks in some areas and the ability to park on the street in some areas, and it's a mixed bag. People drive at the speed that they're comfortable. So if we start putting striping out there, I'm not sure if you're going to see what you expect to see because it's going to tell them that they have a designated lane to go in, as opposed to, oh, there's a car on the side of the road that they have to slow down and go around, or there's an oncoming car and they need to slow down so they can safely pass them. What the striping does is it tells them, hey, this is your lane. You're good to go in it. So I'm not sure if that's going to do what you're hoping it will do, but part of what this is, so phase 2 is, hey, you guys, what do you want to do out there? If you'd like to propose striping and you think that would be what you want, help draft the traffic calming plan, make that your proposal, see if you get some traction with that. And that's the whole point of the community involvement, is that it's what do you guys want to see? What do you think would help with the traffic calming out there?
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. Like I said, I'm not an expert, so those points are very valid. It was just an observation as a motorist that I saw. So thank you.
The good news is that anything you guys propose will be taken back and reviewed by the county to make sure that we agree with what's going on out there. So, and that it meets all of the county standards, traffic control requirements. So you won't be seeing any hot pink signs or ejecting speed cushions or anything like that.
Very cool. Thank you.
Next person, who's got the unmute now?
Hi, this is Art Rothberg. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
So I joined this meeting a little bit late, so I'm sorry. Maybe I have missed what you mentioned, and then I may have to request you to repeat what you have already talked about. But so I understand the data you showed me, but when did you gather this data? Because recently the traffic volume sky up and it shoot up really high, and then it's hard for me to turn left on Rigert Road. And then also during winter, it's so jammed when we have icy road and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if you still allow like a street parking and stuff like that, because it's gonna be a mess with increasing number of people living in this area.
So I can tell you that I have had the radar trailer out there in February and April this year. So those are the two latest dates that I have. I don't know if it's been placed out there since April.
Okay.
If the requests come in, we've placed the trailer on streets about every 6 months,
I see.
just to see what the numbers are doing. We've kind of hit the post-COVID increase in speed and volume, so we're seeing those numbers normalize a lot more right now. Yeah, Rigert's an interesting one because during the winter, it's a very nice hill. I mean, it's a good cut through, but it's not great driving in the winter. As far as parking restrictions on the side of the road, it's a collector, so technically there would be no parking on the side of the road. That typically is only posted that way when the improvements have been done. So if you were to see it on Rigert, it's probably down towards 175th, where a couple developments have come in and done the full road widening with curbs and sidewalks and everything. But again, if we start restricting parking, you're going to lose that on-street parking eligibility that helped you qualify for the Neighborhood Streets program. So double-edged sword. If we take away the parking, you may not qualify for the Neighborhood Streets program anymore.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next up.
Hello. Are you
All
there?
right,
Hello?
Michael.
Yes, this is Michael.
All right, you're up.
Yes, I live a few blocks south of Rigert, but Rigert's the only way I get out to the world from any direction south of Rigert. I had two questions. One, the pavement surfacing or resurfacing, does that include rumble strips like that are on 175th? Rumble strips could be added to Rigert?
You could propose that as part of your traffic calming, yes.
Okay, so then the other part of this is back to your getting a project petition. How does this get organized? Now, people have spoken here, they're interested, they've asked how deep into the neighborhood to go, but is this some official petition you provide and you lead, or do we have to find each other through Zoom here and get together and create our own petition and propose all kinds of things, or just particular things, or just that we want a traffic calming solution? It's very clear to me what the next step would be.
So as far as the petition goes, if there was one person that wanted to spearhead that, great. If there's a few of you, even better. So that can happen a couple ways. If you all wanted to email the Neighborhood Streets program and let me know, I can share contact information between all of you guys and get you linked up if you don't live next to each other. So that would at least share, email addresses, and you guys can coordinate that. But the petition is community driven. So that is you guys taking that on and running with it.
So its structure and its content are up to us.
I require that it has the name of the person and the address, and then usually whether they rent or own. That's not a huge requirement, but what I do need is the name and the address, so I know where we're getting the petition, if they're signing it, where they're signing it, representing, so I can kind of establish that boundary.
Is the petition just that we want a traffic calming solution for Rigert, or is it specific traffic calming changes we want to see?
It is just that you want traffic calming. So the petition is just, yes, I would like something to be done for Rigert.
Okay, so anyone who is listening to you can send an email to you and you will hook us together. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
And what is that email address that people should contact?
So let me see if I can pop it up here in Zoom. One second.
If I may speak for just a moment while you're looking for that, I just want to emphasize something that you said earlier about the area of influence or the petition boundaries. Because of the 51% interest requirement, it's tempting to start with a large number of people. But if you dilute the number of people interested, if you dilute it with people who are not interested, then your percentage is going to be lower. So it's often better to start more, central to where the issue is and work your way out. So if you have multiple neighbors working on this in the community, rather than, piece out, you take that neighborhood over here, you take that neighborhood over here. Sometimes it's better to work from the center out so that you can get a really clear idea of where interest ends and you can stop before you dilute yourself out of a solution.
Sounds good. I just want to say, by the way, my name is Michael Donahue. I didn't put my last name up there. So in case it shows up in email, that's who this is.
Can I say something? Since I
Yeah, I was
sort of
waiting
got this
for all the
going.
people that hadn't spoke. So
Oh.
Tressa and then Jennifer are the other two with hands up.
Michael Dunn?
I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to say this is refreshing for me to hear because I sort of thought I was alone on an island out there. So I've been emailing with Melissa since May, and I called for the trailer. There was a third trailer, and that was put out by Beaverton Police. So I don't know who called for that one. So there's actually a third one that was out there. I live right off 184th on the first Hammerhead north. So we also hear a lot of noise and stuff at night. But I'm willing to work with whoever to help spearhead. I actually purchased some lawn signs to put with my own money to put out to get people to join this meeting, but FedEx was delayed. So anyway, so I'm very motivated. I just don't know how to connect with everybody. So it sounds like Michael kind of had the same question. Even though we all live very close, unfortunately these days, not everybody knows everybody, even a few blocks away. So, and then our homeowners association hasn't had a meeting for a couple of years. So, I just, I can put my information out there, whatever, but I'm willing, I'm retired, so I can work on it a lot. So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Okay, so if you guys can see my screen, hopefully, I just popped up with the email address. So email this, say it's for Rigert, say you want to connect with the other people to do traffic calming on Rigert, and I can put all your emails together and let you guys connect and move forward.
Okay, thank you.
And Jennifer.
Oh, hey, this is Jeff Thyler. Jennifer lives in the same house. Hey, Melissa, how are you?
Good. How's it going?
Not too bad. Well, if you can solve this problem, it would be okay.
I don't claim to be able to solve the problem. I will help you work towards a solution. But
I am joking with you. We appreciate your time, and we really, really do appreciate your time. My first question is, have you ever actually had a photo truck placed on
like the Beaverton van that does photo?
Yes.
Not allowed in the county. So there's a few things that are allowed within the city limits that are not allowed in the county. Dang it. So, I know that one gets people every time. So we can't do that. We can do a few things. We could do, so land use and transportation, Washington County has the radar trailer that we use at NSP. The sheriff's office has a radar trailer. The sheriff's office has a stealth unit that records speeds without the speed showing. So people get recorded and they don't know it. And all of this does is if it's got the display board, it lets you know and makes you aware. But all three of these units record the data so we can tell. What I've done in a couple areas is I've taken a look at the speed data and said, you know what, our speeding problem is specifically between 3 and 5 in the evening. And we've sent it to the sheriff's office and said, hey, if you've got a spare officer that could go sit out there, he might enjoy it between this time on these days. And they've done that a couple times. They're running a very lean department as well right now. So
Understood.
That's not always possible. But yeah, there's a few things that they can do inside the city limits that we're allowed to do on the county roads. So that speed photo van is one of them.
Okay. Another question. So earlier you'd said that Rigert's a mixed bag, meaning, yeah, exactly. I'm quoting you. So we live down towards the end next, just 175th, where it curves. So there's a new development that just happened, Oldham, and then there's another new development going on.
Mm-hmm.
Would those developments impact saying, hey, you know what, there are new developments, you got a mixed bag here. People are usually, I would say going 65 to 75 miles an hour past our place easily because they have to rev up the hill. Would that affect that mixed bag to maybe, because that curve with 175th and Rigert is deadly. We hear so many crashes. People are flying up and down this street. We've seen people go through that stop sign because they're going too fast. And again, my question, let me get back to my question is, because of all the new developments, especially down in this area, could that help with the cause here?
Excuse me, sorry about
Bless you.
that. Not in the way you're hoping. So what those developments are doing is usually they're taking a residential driveway, so a house that fronts the road, and they're turning it into a side street that accesses 20 other houses or however many. Oldham was big. But what happens there is that instead of having fronting properties, you now have a side street with full build out. And if it does the build out to the collector status, which is what Rigert is, you've now restricted parking. So you went from having a house that contributed to the NSP eligibility by having fronting property to a side street with no parking, and you've removed your eligibility. So when I set this up and when I looked at everything, I evaluated Rigert from 185th to 175th.
Okay.
But honestly, if we were looking at more of what that residential collector is, it's the portion that's closer to 185th right now, or maybe in the middle. Those developments on the east end are making it less likely to qualify. And I know your concerns about 175th and Rigert. It's had some safety improvements. They've done some intersection realignment. Oldham Meadows did some improvements there to try to improve the safety. Those are not things that we can do within the Neighborhood Streets program. So that's where I hate to do this, but we're limited in what we can do with what this program is designed to do. And it's designed to do traffic calming and livability in neighborhoods. So the safety of the 175th curve is a different pot of money and a different set of rules.
No, I'm just asking, any way we can slow people down on Rigert. I mean, it is insane. And I know this is a forum to ask questions and not complain about things, but going back to the snow, we've had folks have to stay in our house because their cars were in the ditches. And I mean, it's just this street is so, the safety on it. There's no safety. It's zero. It's the wild west. It's Old Man Rigert, his orchard that they named it after him. And it's just, there's something needs to be done, or there's going to be more people dying here. And the new development and another new development going in, our neighbors moved away because they had small kids, and they're like, geez, if our kids escaped and even went over to Rigert, they're done. That's I don't know. It's just, it's tough. And I feel for everybody, and I hope everybody on this call gets together and, see what we can Jen, I think Jen might have a question really quick while we're here, but no, I really appreciate everyone's time. This is a serious matter. We've lived here since 2007, and just, wow. I mean, and then, I just got to throw this in, and I know the police force is, they're taxed right now, but even before that, we would call Beaverton police, or we'd call, Washington County Sheriff, Beaverton. They'd send motorcycle cops over, and I could hear them talking out of my office window in the summertime saying, what are we even doing here? But they were there at 11 o'clock in the morning. And, they weren't at the times where people are just zooming through. It's just, yeah, so it's been tough.
Yeah, and that's where if we can send them a targeted time, it helps. Otherwise, they're sent out when they have no other task they're doing, and it's like 11 o'clock in the morning, or
and there's nobody even on the road. It's yeah. So I mean, I understand. I mean, however, that it just, this road's a problem. It's a real big problem, and it needs to be addressed, or there's going to be more people dying unless we can do something to fix it. So again, I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. So next one up.
Ken has his hand up. I promoted him because he's from Long Range Planning, so I thought he was working with you, but he might be here because he might be in the neighborhood. So Ken, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm actually, I do work in long range planning, but I'm actually here because I live in the neighborhood. Given the mixed bag of Rigert, does it qualify for more than one funding? You mentioned the safety improvements. Is there another, something that can be done to like fill in, sidewalk gaps or curbs or things like that on a collector street that doesn't, that is outside of the neighborhood streets program that you're running, Melissa?
Yeah. So if you want sidewalk, that is another earned pot of money that I don't know if it's already on the list or not, but that's something you put a request in for. And Sherry, I'm going to get this wrong. I don't remember what the, it's not minor betterments, but there's an earned
Pedestrian
request.
and biking improvement program.
Yeah, there you go. Pedestrian and biking improvement program. I'm assuming they can go on the website and submit a request for.
Yep, they sure can. You can do it through the website. So if you go, I didn't have anything prepared to talk about this tonight, but if you go to the county website and you type earned pedestrian and biking improvements, you'll find a map of candidates that people have already requested. And there are a lot of them. We just went through the process of approving where the earned advisory committee approved 12 projects in the county, or in the earned, to be built. So in the program, it's a biennial program, and so every second year, money is pooled and the selections are made, and then it's a 2-year build out process. But you can go to the website and you can see if your street is already a candidate. And if it's not, right there on the website, you can make a request to add your street, and it will come to my email. I'll see it.
There you go. So that would get you sidewalks in there. As far as anything bigger, you're looking at like a capital project to put in a full road improvement on Rigert. And I don't know about that.
Another question is the denominator for the 51% on the petition. Does it have to be the same as the denominator for the 67% once, you know, there's some sort of neighborhood consensus on the
No.
solution?
We had a project a few years back where they went and did the petition, and there was an entire street that said, you know what, we don't want to be a part of this. And so they just took them out of the ballot, period. So in this case, depending on what we wanted to do and the impacts of that, like I said, if you're doing a speed feedback sign and it doesn't affect, you know, if you had everybody within 2 blocks of Rigert sign the petition, but you're only putting in speed feedback signs in front of certain houses on Rigert, we're going to concentrate our ballot to those particular houses and the ones in the immediate area of the sign. So there's a chance that the ballot location would be a lot smaller than the petition location. And I'll actually set the ballot location, like the boundary on that, when I mail those out, because I have to figure out where to mail the ballots to. So I'll have the boundary and I'll know the exact number that we need to get back yes votes on. And as it gets closer, if you have people that are really interested, they're welcome to, you know, contact me and figure out if you're missing ballots that, you know, maybe they can go virtually knock on doors and remind people to send them in. So yeah, that ballot area is not necessarily the petition area though. Okay. Anybody else who has questions, concerns, wants to vent? Because I'm fine with that too.
Me again.
Tressa or Jennifer, I don't know which one put their hands up, or sorry, I don't remember the man's name that was with Jennifer also. Sorry.
This is Jeff.
Oh.
I had one last. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt somebody?
No, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. So from what I understand, we're trying to get the road changed to be safer. Is there any type of noise ordinance within the county or here? Because we're Washington County proper, but address Beaverton. Is there any type of noise ordinance within the county or city of Beaverton that could help with that?
I'm not sure if it's going to help. There's a noise ordinance, but it's things like being quiet between like 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. And I think that there may be something related to like car mufflers or something. I don't.
There is, and there's also dog barking restrictions, and the mufflers aren't under noise ordinance. They're under the sheriff's office. But that's, I've already done some research on that. I just had one question quickly, because you had said the photo trailers weren't allowed in the county like they are in the city of Beaverton. So one of the things I've seen coming over Bull Mountain is on Roshack when it goes from Tigard into Beaverton over there to Barrows. There's a permanent speed sign so that when you drive, it will flash, you know, what your speed is, and that's always there. It's not a trailer. Are we eligible for that if that's something the group comes up with and the petition approves? Is that something? Because I assume so, because that's Washington County also.
Yes, that is one of the options you can choose for
Okay.
traffic calming.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm not sure, Jeff, that the noise stuff is going to be something we can really tackle with the NSP. We're looking at traffic calming. So if it's a secondary part of traffic calming, great, but it's not, I'm not sure how to do something that would fix the noise. But if you can think of something and put it in your traffic calming plan, great.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, we've got a few minutes left. Anybody else have stuff they want to bring up?
Can you just go over next steps then, other than us emailing you to connect?
Oh, okay, so Tressa, did I already send you the petition information?
Possibly, could you resend? You know, we've have many emails back and forth, and then between both homeowners associations. So I'm trying to keep track of it, but could you resend?
Fair enough.
Okay, thanks.
So what I will do is anybody who is interested in working on the petition, if you email me, I will connect all of you guys to send out the petition requirements plus a form if you'd rather do a door-to-door thing or email it out, however. Get that sent back to me as soon as you get your 51% of the people in the area adjacent to Rigert. And then if you have people who are really interested in developing this traffic calming plan, let me know. If it's the same people doing the petition, great. If it's additional people or less people, let me know that. And then we'll start working on that plan. So if you've got an idea put together, let me know what it is. If we need to set up another meeting, we can do that. These will all be virtual, by the way. And so petition is first step. Next step after that is coming up with the plan and really refining it. And then once we feel like we've got a good plan that the county is okay with and those of you that expressed interest approve of, we'll get everything bundled into a nice package that will go out to the neighborhood with ballots. So if there's additional people outside the ballot area who might be, just want to know what's going on, they might get a nice letter that says, hey, you don't get a vote on it, but here's what we're looking at. Or we just send out a letter with a ballot that says, here's the proposed traffic calming plan. Please, return the enclosed postcard letting us know if you approve of this or not. And then if we get 67%, we can start the process of getting this constructed. If we do not, you guys will get a nice letter that says, sorry, we tried, there was not enough interest. There are no timelines on how long this will take. It kind of depends on how fast that we can get through the petition, the traffic calming plan, the balloting, and then construction is anybody's guess, depending on the complexity. So it takes as long as it takes, depending on community interest. But yes, the petition is the first step. The plan is the next step. The ballot is the third step. So if you guys already have ideas for what you want to do for that traffic calming plan, connect, get them, written up so that you can let me know what you'd like to do.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Well, this is Jeff again. Melissa and Sherry, thank you again for your time and really appreciate you guys. Anything you could do to help out with this. My one question left is regarding the speed bumps. And this may be, you guys might not know this question, or answer, but is like on the grade of a hill, is there a restriction on putting speed bumps if there's a grade of a hill that's...
Sorry, I lost my audio there for a sec. You asked about speed bumps on the grade of the hill?
Yeah.
There-
Is there a restriction on speed bumps
Yes,
if the grade of the hill is too steep?
absolutely. So there's a good chance that portions of Rigert or all of it would be too steep to be able to put speed cushions on it.
That's good.
I will also tell you that speed cushions are not as effective as you may think because modern car suspensions can accommodate those. So it's effective for some cars and not for others. But so we use a speed cushion. It's got the grooves in it that the fire truck fits through. So if you want to see how those drive, just so you know what you're asking before we propose something like that, go find some of them. They're in a few different areas in the county. I could get you a list of locations if you wanted to go try those. But yeah, there's a good chance that Rigert's not going to be able to put them in just due to the grades.
Okay.
My one other question was, so there is, down by where we live, there's a posted sign that says no through trucks. Yeah. And that is never followed.
Yeah.
So
I've heard various things about how enforceable those are. It is very difficult because in order for the sheriff's office to enforce that, they have to get a motor carrier enforcement unit out there that essentially follows the truck all the way through the street to verify that it's not doing a local delivery. And because you're not the first street to bring up questions about no through trucks. And so what I've been told is it is very hard to enforce and ticket those. I will just go ahead and preface the next question with no, I do not know how to tell Google not to send them down your street. I have tried. We've tried to get navigation apps to not send trucks down local roads, and nobody has been able to figure out how to do that yet. So that one's extremely hard to change. I wish I knew how.
I think it goes into how this road is a mixed bag. And if we can present that to whoever can fix it, it is a mixed bag. It's a horrible bag.
So what we're going to try to do here is assume that it's a residential street, that it's somebody's neighborhood, that kids are playing out there, and we're going to, since it qualifies as that, we're going to enact traffic calming that makes the street appear like a residential street, like it's just a nice neighborhood that everybody's lives on. And so that's the target that we're using right now.
Okay.
If we switch tacks and try to go with something else, it's not going to qualify under this program. We're going to have to change funding sources. It may not get the results you want. So the goal right now is this is a neighborhood community street. It's got houses on it, and we're going for traffic calming with that in mind.
Excellent. Thank you again. Really appreciate everybody's time.
Couple other hands up. So Michael, is yours up again?
It is. Yeah, I just wanted to say what I had mentioned before was not about speed bumps. It's about rumble strips. And if you want an example of what I'm talking about, you can head south on 175th from the new traffic circle heading towards the high school, and you come to a place called The Kink, known locally as The Kink. And there's two sets of rumble strips there, which I find effective in slowing me down going into The Kink. So I don't know if they are the same kind of, that is on a hill. And so I don't know if they would have the same kind of restriction as a speed bump on a hill.
They would not have the same restriction as a speed bump on the hill. Keep in mind that when you drive over those, they do make a noise. So when every car drives over those, they will make a noise. So if you live adjacent to those, think about whether you'd want to rather hear the noise or have the speed, because they don't mute at night. But yeah, go if there's things you guys want to see, if we've got them installed in the county somewhere, I would recommend going and
and trying them out, driving them and thinking about how they'll be if you're the if you're the house next to them. So yeah, 175th and High Hill for those of us using Google rather than the kink. But I did know exactly where you were talking about. So you can go try those there.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, last chance before I call the meeting. So comments, questions, I don't care if you rant. Okay, feel free to email me if you've got questions about anything. If it's something I can answer, great. If not, I will find the appropriate person to get your response. We'll get those of you interested connected so you can start a petition. And hopefully we'll be able to start working towards a solution out there. Think about what you would like to see for traffic calming. You know, this is designed to be something where you guys get to have input on it. So I love that you're thinking of all these ideas. There's nothing wrong with that. So start putting these things together, you know, talking as you're getting the petition signed. And once we've got that petition part checked off, we'll start working towards our traffic calming plan. So if there's nothing else anybody wants to say, thank you so much, everybody, for coming tonight. This was really informative. I think I heard a lot of good stuff out there. Gave a few of you guys a chance to connect and learn that it's not just one person looking for traffic calming. There's actually a whole bunch of you. So have a good evening. Thank you so much for coming to the meeting. And I look forward to getting emails from a bunch of you in the next week so we can start this.
Thank you.
Melissa.